Hello and welcome to Center for Victory's podcast, episode number 7 of Your Best Day Yet. We're here to unlock, reinforce, and enrich relationships through personal and professional development. I'm Eric Guy, Chief Victory Officer at the Center for Victory, and special guest today happens to be my son, Josiah. We're picking up where we left off last week. We've been talking about principles to really supercharge your success in your life. And last week we talked about just the principle of being happy. This week we're going to talk about one that's near and dear to me because it's one of our core values at Center for Victory. It might seem a little bit funny, but it's definitely us. And that is one that we call Be Like Fred. And the reason that I got my son here is I really believe that he is just the epitome of Fred. If you knew what I'm talking about, who Fred is. We happen to be from Pittsburgh, born and raised south of Pittsburgh, just live a little north of Pittsburgh now. And so we grew up getting to know Fred Rogers pretty well. He was on PBS as you grew up, but I grew up with him as well. And that's one of the really the principles we talk about of being like Fred. And what we mean by that is if you know Fred Rogers and have watched him on TV, you're always reminded of his song, "Oh, won't you be, oh, won't you be, oh, won't you be my neighbor?" And that's what this principle is about, really just having an attitude of a neighbor, but realize that not everybody's going to reciprocate back, but that doesn't mean you don't do it. And one of the things, some of the principles there that we'll go over today, really about Fred. You think about who Fred Rogers was and what he espoused in his show and his values and everything like that, and just being kind-hearted, selfless, personable, very empathetic, would always listen. Definitely, the man had a heart for people, huge heart for people, very servant-oriented. And I think above all, even what came out in this show was the fact that he was extremely loyal, and just really lots of characteristics that I find that we want to be in part of our company here at Center for Victory. But I'm going to shut up for a little bit and let my son talk. But he really epitomizes one of our core values of really being like Fred. So I'll hand it over to you. When I say be like Fred, what do you think about, Josiah?
Well, to me, being like Fred is bringing people up. Not necessarily for your own gain or anything like that, but just for the sole purpose of that you care about people.
Okay.
And you care about their well-being. I actually really like the quote. I have it around my room and things like that. Fred Rogers once said, "There are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. And the third way is also to be kind." I think that's huge. Just living a life where you're just constantly being kind is just, it's overwhelmingly positive for the person you're talking to, but for you as well. I mean, it comes back and makes you feel good in that present moment, but also just building that relationship with somebody is huge. So being a good neighbor is important.
Can you think about a time where you've practiced this principle of being kind and what it's done? Maybe can you think of an example?
I don't know if I can name you one, but I use it all the time. But I think overarchingly, I just finished my first year at Penn State, and I think I made a lot of friends just sort of getting to know them, but just kind of reaching out and going "Hey, can I take you to lunch? Can I take you to dinner? I know this cool place downtown." And just going and really just loving on them, and then eventually, a lot of times that turns into a really good relationship, one that both builds me up and the other person up. Just being kind in the moments that are kind of awkward, I think for me was huge, and it built up a lot of my relationships now, and I think it builds up both parties. So it's like a win-win.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I mean, one of the things that well, we preach this because we preached it in the home, but we preach it in our company too. But really just having healthy motives. You spoke to that just in a different way, but I just wanted to mention it again because under one of our core values, one of the things that we talk about here in the company is really having healthy motives, or really what that means is having a culture of a team with no personal agenda. I think back of watching Fred on PBS here in Pittsburgh, and the people that he would bring in just to talk to people. There was really this sense of us, and he really took it upon himself, not just on the show, right, but in real life
of it,
to build people up. And we really, one of the things I heard you say is to take a proactive step or way of thinking towards not just equipping ourselves, but each other, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I guess I'll ask the tough question because I think I hear it a lot when I share these principles with people is, okay, yeah, be a neighbor, be nice, be personal, be empathetic, but what happens because people are going to abuse that? And I agree with that. I mean, I do agree with that. I think I said it earlier, you're going to get burned by some people. And I know you've been, certainly I have been. But can you speak to that a little bit?
That's tough because I've fallen in that rut many a times recently. I think the main thing to sort of like get your mind around in terms of people like taking advantage of kindness is to just be aware that it's happening. So if you're in like a relationship where you can tell that somebody's like taking advantage of you or your time or just your resources, then it's good to kind of like see that and then make the change or make suggestions or completely get rid of that situation as a whole. I mean, one of your core values up there is to be an eagle. If one of those people that you're being kind with is a pigeon and they're not building you up, then that might not be a relationship you want to pursue. So I think it's not necessarily a bad thing to like kill that person with kindness, but maybe not necessarily pursue the relationship you would with like eagles where you're going to build each other up and it's going to be a productive relationship for the two parties.
That makes sense. Well, we shouldn't like stop doing it. I mean, that's my biggest thing there.
Yeah,
is
for
like,
sure.
I used to hear a lot of people make fun. Well, I'll go back to Fred Rogers again, but a lot of people used to make fun of some of the things he said or the songs he sung. But really, at our core, I really think we want like a neighbor, right? Everybody wants. I mean, and I don't want to get too far ahead of anything or off topic here, but I mean, we're hardwired to connect, and the message that Fred spoke was that we're about connection. I mean, they've proven that now through neuroscience and things. We're hardwired to connect with one another, and I just would like to imagine a world where everybody felt connected. I mean, all this stuff going on right now, especially what's been on our hearts here, seeing all these the shootings and things like that. What if we just stopped all the garbage that's out there, and what could happen if we were actually kind to one another?
Yeah, how productive things would get just from everybody being confident in their own shell, from other people building each other up.
Yeah. So what happens, and I could see this, again, I'm going back to using Fred again, when you're just kind-hearted and empathetic towards somebody and you listen to somebody, what kind of things come back to you with that? I mean, I think about even the show and you're looking at it, you're watching it on TV, and you're watching kind of it play out. what kind of things come back to you when you're like that, when you exhibit those characteristics?
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of beating a dead horse here, but it's just those good relationships. I mean, we're social creatures, so we
Mm-hmm.
need to have good relationships in our lives, whether it's in the workplace or at school or at home, wherever. We thrive for good relationships, whether we're extroverts or introverts. We just really want some sort of human interaction in some way. And I think when you're kind to whoever it may be, like whether that's like going out and doing something extravagant or just like opening the door for somebody, it comes around, and you
Mm-hmm.
can have somebody else open the door for you when your hands are full, or
Yeah.
you could have somebody do a huge gesture for you, or something like that. But it comes around to the point where you get really either strong relationships, or you just get moments of like, yeah, like this, like society can be extremely productive if we're just like extremely kind to one another. And I think it's a huge deal both on a small and large scale. So,
So let's go just another level deeper.
okay.
One of the things I loved about Fred Rogers is that he just didn't take it in his head and say, okay, be a good neighbor, be kind.
Mm,
It was more of a heart thing for him.
yeah.
Like, and he held that in his heart. And what happens when we hold that kindness in our heart? And again, you're probably going to be saying a couple of the same things here, but I realize
Mm,
that. But I just want,
mm,
for anybody listening, a lot of people when they hear this is like, okay, yeah, I can be kind, I can be kind, I can be kind. I think people just put it in practical terms where it's more like in their head, I need to be kind. It needs to penetrate into one's heart
mm.
for some of the things that you were talking about, for actually us to reciprocate, to get that back.
Yeah,
Right?
because I feel like you can't have like a checklist of like, oh, I was nice to
Yeah.
3 people today. It better come back to me, or else I'm not gonna be nice to people tomorrow. It's just got to be an inward like thing that you want to do.
And it really does lead to success. I saw a quote from, and I'll probably blow it out of the water and goof it all up today, but I saw a quote from Gary Vee today that basically said, around the very nature of, hey, look, people that are kind are often seen as sometimes as a doormat, and that's just not. Like, or a pushover. It said a pushover. That's what it said.
Yeah.
And the end of that quote said, "You're only a pushover if you push back," which is not being kind. So I was like, because usually he's pretty, boisterous and loud, but that was pretty significant of what he said. When you don't push back and you just continue to be kind, what can happen?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
How, are there some other things, that you could really look at of how being kind has like made you successful? I know you don't like talking about it,
Yeah. No,
because it's just part of who we are, right? We
Yeah.
don't like really talking about it because we don't want to, portray that it's just, oh, be kind, because it's a way to manipulate people.
Yeah.
And just
for
be
sure.
kind when it's in your heart, right? When it's in your heart, it will come back.
Yep.
But are there things that you've said, hey, look, this has made me a little bit more successful in my life here or there?
Like specific examples, or just like my feeling, or like what are you looking for?
Well, anything. I mean, it's specific. If you have a specific example that you've used, I know you used with school when you started with college.
Yeah.
And what has it done for you as far as in terms of any what you would call success?
I think I'm gonna go back to college because it's just fresh in my
Yeah.
mind. But I had a really cool exchange where I started to like be really close friends with this one girl. She was a senior in the major that I was in at the time, and we were talking about stuff that wasn't even involved in the major. It was like we were getting into like just deep conversations about college life and getting to know one another, because this was one of the first times we'd met. So yeah, this was early on in the semester, and it was like a huge, like, the kindness came back
Mm-hmm.
because it was probably like she knew that I was looking for like a research position. Because I wanted to kind of get in the lab, get my hands dirty. And I told her, I was like, yeah, I don't know where it's going to come from. I know it's going to come soon. But we're still looking for that opportunity. And she comes around like a month later and she's like, the guy I'm working with's looking for a freshman.
Wow.
And I was like, that's awesome. So I jumped on it and I got in the lab first semester freshman year.
Which is good.
That's crazy.
Which is good. Yeah, that is crazy.
I couldn't have even drawn that up. And I still have that relationship with her. I still have the relationship with all the people in that research group. It was just super cool. Yeah.
Just spread. I know you have, I know we're getting ready to wrap up here. I know you have another quote actually from Fred Rogers that you wanted to share. You want to take a moment to read that off?
Yeah, sure. I have here that the world needs a sense of worth, and it will achieve it only by its people feeling that they are worthwhile.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, being kind just pushes out that sense of not only that it builds up that self-esteem in other people. A kind word can go a long way. And I'm going to end with another quote from Fred Rogers, actually. When you think about it, when we're talking about this principle, it does work, and it's hard. It's hard to do sometimes. And some of the tips I would give to our listeners: actually be kind, and then don't just take it from a practical sense. Let it infiltrate your heart. I mean, be kind in your heart and let it come outward. Let it just exude over all people. Yeah, you're probably going to get hurt. That's inevitable.
Yep.
But more often than not, you'll find those people that'll be kind back, and you'll get kindness back. And then once that does, it's just you can reciprocate it all the way back out again. It just keeps flowing. There's enough of it to go around. I wish we would just understand that really as a society. And so that would be some of my tips that I would give folks just as a success principle. That really is one. When you look at successful leaders, again, Fred Rogers, us being from Pittsburgh, grew up with Fred, as many other people did, not just in Pittsburgh, but outside of Pittsburgh as well. But if we just exude that kind of selflessness, that kind of empathy, where we actually listen to somebody, where we actually take time to care, and where we have more of a servant heart and we're loyal to one another, great things can happen. A lot of things that we call problems that are on the news every night can eventually go away if we will do that.
Yep.
So with that in mind, I'm actually going to end with another quote from Fred Rogers. And I just want you to imagine right now. So if you're listening to this, just want you really to imagine this right now. It's a great quote from Fred. It says, imagine what our real neighbors would be like if each of us offered, as a matter of course, just one kind word to another person. As you go today, after you listen to this, take that to heart. Imagine you saying that, and not just imagine it, do it. Say a kind word, give a kind word, give some kind support. As my son said, open a door for somebody. It just takes these little steps of kindness to get us to that next level. If you want more information, you can connect with us at centerforvictory.com, or you can call our office at 724-462-8383. And just remember, wherever you're at, whatever you're doing, make this your best day yet. We'll catch you next time.